Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Retro Warriors episode 502.
Woo!
As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by viable human Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Hi, Saturn. I'm glad that you remain viable after all this time. Your
I
viability has never been in question.
mean, it's a little in question. But, it's fine. It's fine.
You think of later it's just going to be joined by human Chris Saturn? This was...
Legal human Chris Saturn.
I forgot to mention in the housekeeping last episode, we had talked about how we've started our own Lemmy community.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've been having a lot of fun hanging out on.
Yeah.
But we had also tried to start up our own Owncast streaming, and I meant to say that crashed and burned dramatically. Because turns out the
internet.
No, I wasn't hosting it myself.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm not that crazy. But
Yeah.
the hosting we need to pay for to get a decent streaming platform is expensive.
Who would have thought that streaming video in real time would be expensive?
Not me, I tell
Oh.
you. So we're back on Twitch. So just throwing that out there for anyone that heard that episode and was like, cool, it didn't work out. But the Lemmy's been working out, been hanging out on our Lemmy community. So we're there if you want to come talk to us. We're also in Discord. We don't talk about it a lot on the show, but we're in Discord every fucking day.
We talk about it pretty often.
Yeah, that's
Not
true.
often enough. Not as often as we talk on Discord.
Come join us in Discord, and you too
join
can hang out.
us.
My week.
Yes, sir.
Played a little bit of Sniper Elite 4, which is just kind of my I want to shoot Nazis in their faces and relax for a little bit kind of game.
Okay, yeah.
And I was playing at home, and my daughter had happened to walk by, and she was like, "Hey, are you playing games?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Can we play Halo?" And I was like, "I don't want to play Halo right now," because she just wants to do 1v1 deathmatch Halo all the time. And I'm like, you're in third grade. What are you, like a 16-year-old like gamer dude? Like 1v1 Halo deathmatch? What is happening? I'm waiting for it to come.
No items.
Yeah, Final Destination, no items. Yeah, I'm waiting on that to happen. I'm like, no, I don't want to fucking do that. I don't want you to run me over with a Jeep 70 times in a row. And so she's sitting there, and I was like, well, let me play a little more of this, and then maybe we can play some Halo. And she sits down to watch it, and I was like, you're probably not going to want to watch this. She's like, why? And so for people that don't know, Sniper Elite has a slow motion X-ray camera for when you shoot a sniper rifle.
So like Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, so the camera follows behind the bullet, and then as it gets close to the guy you're shooting, it X-rays the inside of their body, and you can watch it like wreck through their guts and bones and stuff.
Gross, yeah.
And it's all in slow motion, and it has noises, and it's the first time you do it, you're like, oh, that's kind of bad, but then you eventually get fully desensitized to the violence. And we're playing it, and I shoot a guy, and it like tears into him, and it X-rays, and she goes, oh no! And I was like, yeah, it's gross. She goes, you hurt that man. And I go, it's okay, sweetie, he's a Nazi. She goes, oh. And then she sat there for a couple more minutes, and then by the end of it, she was pointing them out to me. She'd be like, over there in those bushes, Daddy, shoot that Nazi.
That's good.
So played a little bit of Sniper Elite 4.
That's some good parenting.
I also continuing to try to sort of decorporatize my computer existence as much as I can. I had been running a network monitor on my phone to see what all I have calling home. Yeah. And it's a lot. Oh, it's a lot. And so I've been working back and forth, debloating my phone and seeing what I have going and tracking traffic and setting up firewalls on my phone to block like weird shit. Like my home launcher does not need to call home. Yeah. It just needs to launch my apps.
Well, your home screen doesn't need to call home?
And it doesn't need to send data to anyone. I'm sorry, you don't have to. And I remembered I had an old Moto X4 because I have a Samsung phone, which means the bootloader is locked and there is no unlocking it.
I know.
And so I took out my old Moto X4 with a shattered screen, and I've ordered a new screen for it. I've put unlocked the bootloader and put Lineage OS on it. And I don't know if I'm going to switch to it like as a full-time phone, but it's been fun to break out an old phone and get to kind of play around with unlocked bootloaders and custom ROMs and that whole kind of side of Android.
Yeah.
Which I used to play around with a lot, and then just
Oh yeah.
kind of stopped because eventually Android got
Things
good
were
enough
good
that you
enough,
didn't
yeah.
need to run custom ROMs to get shit just
Right.
to fucking function.
Yeah.
So I've been messing around with that, and I'm very impressed with it. I mean, the Moto X4, I think the latest Android it got was 9,
Mhm.
and with
Oh,
Lineage,
dang.
I'm updated to Android 15,
Nice.
which is quite a bit more recent than Android
What?
9.
No,
I
it's basically
know.
the same.
And it's running like it's not like I mean my other phone is like a Z Fold 6. It's like a flagship level Samsung, right?
Yeah.
The thing is intensely powerful, more than I ever need for a computer in my pocket that I look at gifs of cats on. But so I don't want to make it sound like this thing's outperforming it, but like
Right.
this is like a 7-year-old phone. It's like day-to-day usable. Every now
Yeah.
and then you're like, Discord takes a minute to load or stuff's a little slow, but it's extremely, imminently usable on its little octa-core ARM with 4 gigs of RAM. And it's got a headphone jack and an SD card slot, and it's water resistant.
Nice.
It's almost like we've always known how to make good devices with features, and we just choose not to do it because fuck
that's
us,
silly.
right?
That's just silly.
So I've been playing around with my Moto X4. I still haven't gotten the screen in the mail to do the replacement. Right now, it's just Scotch tape over the front. It was my daughter's phone for a long time that she used to play, because we have the Google Play Pass, so she would play video games on it. And now we have her. She had dropped it and shattered the screen, and it was cheaper to pick her up like a $100 Samsung than it was to fix the screen of that phone that at the time was aging. But it's been nice to get to sort of, after my failures with Linux, breathe some new life into a device with some open software.
That's good.
Has been quite enjoyable. So anyone, if you have a Lineage OS compatible device, then if it's getting old, it's a pretty big performance bump over what it was, what it came from, and it was one of the Android One initiative phones.
Yeah.
Which were supposed to be like minimal bloatware, longer term support.
Right. Which they did technically get longer term support.
It was like 3 years instead of 1 year. It wasn't a shitload.
I appreciate that that's finally starting to change, because like the Pixel 9s they're saying are like 5 or 6 years support or something like that. So they're finally getting to quasi reasonable levels.
Yeah. So like just sort of still playing around with open source stuff and non-corporate stuff and alternative stuff, and enjoying hanging out on Lemmy and Neo Cities on my Moto X4 running Lineage, and
normal human things.
Escaping the mainstream internet, I think
Right.
is what I'm doing.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Can't blame you.
What have you been up to?
So on that note, I had bought several years ago now, well, maybe 2 years ago now, I bought a Samsung tablet because I wanted a tablet to use as an e-reader that had a color screen.
Sure.
And I hate Samsung's OS. I hate everything about it. I hate their interface. I hate their apps.
One UI? Is that their launch?
Yeah, it's One UI. I just hate it so much. I can't stand One UI. So I'd been keeping an eye out since I got it, really, for any way to hack it, because it's difficult to hack at best, because of all the lockdown Samsung shit on it. And so I'd been hoping for somebody to come up with some method of hacking it. And finally the other day I was looking online, and I happened to see somebody had full instructions on how to install TWRP, which is the custom bootloader for it. And so I was very excited. I was like, finally, we've gotten there. And I'm looking at it, and they're like, this is how you install custom ROM and everything. I was like, great, awesome, finally, I can ditch Samsung's shitty OS.
Sure.
And install this custom ROM. And so I'm last night I was following the instructions. I got TWRP running. I wiped the OS. I'm ready to image it. And then I finish reading it, and it's like, for when the custom ROM is created. So I realize I've completely wiped the OS off of this thing.
Right.
And there isn't an OS for me to install on it.
Yeah.
So that was dumb. I should not have done that.
Yeah.
So really, I just broke my tablet, is what I'm saying.
What a ride.
Yeah. So, I could just reinstall the Samsung one, but that feels like defeat. So I'm just leaving it with nothing on it for now. It's in timeout.
You're shaming it. It's being shamed. Yeah.
It's in timeout until it creates itself a worthwhile OS.
I had forgotten that until I was looking at Lineage's website that every Pixel has an unlocked bootloader.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why I always forget that fact. I was like, man, a lot of Pixels have unlocked bootloaders, and I was like, oh yeah, they all just have unlocked.
Yeah,
bootloaders.
Google unlocks them by default.
Yeah.
Yeah, Google doesn't lock any of that down, which is nice. That's despite the fact that Google is an advertising company.
Sure.
They will let you remove all the advertising from their phones.
Yep. But what they won't do is give you a fucking headphone jack.
Well, why would you need that? It's
I still use it. I still use it
with 20th century technology. Is that what you're using it with?
Yes, I'm using a headphone port from the 1900s on my devices. Still Saturn. Weird. All right, I got some Cost Porta Pros. I like to plug them in. I like the plug.
I have my bone conducting earphones that I use now that are Bluetooth, and those are nice.
I mean, I've got Bluetooth. I got some Galaxy Buds Pro, and I've got the Pixel Buds Pro. Like I got headphones. But I like those. I got some of those ugly metal band topped over the ears foam ear pad headphones.
The headphones I use in my car are USB-C connection. Well, they're not headphones, but the connection to my car stereo.
I've got a converter, but what if I want to charge at the same time?
What's that?
I said I've got a converter from 3.5 to USB-C, but what if I want to charge at the same time?
You can use wireless charger.
I also don't like
or you can just have a good battery.
This is one of my weird complaints, but strap in because there's gonna be more of these later. But I hate that the plug then comes out of the center of the phone. Because it feels weird in my pocket, because headphone jacks are always on one of the sides. They're never in the middle. That's a dumb place to put a jack that's going to have a cord dangling out of it.
Okay, that's a really dumb complaint. Yeah,
yep, right. I told you.
Aside from me breaking my tablet, I started playing Cuisenaire. Or Cuisenaire. I'm not sure how they want me to pronounce it.
Cuisinart?
Yeah, it's a Cuisinart, but no. So it is. I picked up the Xbox version, but it's on everything. It is a game where you. It's like a mix of Hades and Restaurant Simulator with a touch of Harvest Moon in there.
I'm looking at the tags on Steam. Action roguelike cooking anime casual are the tags.
Yeah, that's about right. So you play as a character who inherits her parents' restaurant, but she doesn't know where to get ingredients, so she keeps going into dungeons for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you kill sentient peppers to get spices for your restaurant. And there's these weird little like bouncing chicken heads that you can get chicken and eggs for your restaurant. It's
basically just like
cute.
Real life.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. No, it's very cute. My biggest complaint with it is one, it does the whole Harvest Moon thing where it tracks what day of what season it is, and every time that you do something, time progresses, and so you're time limited on everything. But it doesn't seem to have any like hard limits of when you have to get something done by. So I'm willing to ignore it. But the other bigger complaint I have with it is its art style is just kind of this generic anime art style.
It's very anime, yeah.
However, the characters are all like proportioned like they are child anime characters, but they have fully developed breasts, and that's disgusting, and I don't want it. I need them to take that back.
Nope, the toothpaste is never going back in that tube. I've just decided that.
So
judging
bad.
by the
I hate
state
it.
of a lot of things.
I hate it so much. Every time that it shows the full-size character art when somebody's talking, I'm like, nope, take that away. I don't want any of that. That's weird and gross.
Yeah.
I don't know who decided that was. And all the dudes are like super giant and muscular to where
one of the first ones screenshots, and there was a screenshot of this one guy that's like a wolf man.
Yeah.
And he's so big he goes off the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like there's some other dudes that are not that big, but they're like the pretty boy stereotype anime boys. So that's your only two kind of men that are involved.
I've just come to the conclusion that and I don't want to upset any anime fans. I enjoy anime. I watch anime.
Yeah.
I like anime. But I've never really loved things that lean really hard into anime tropes. And I think what I've decided, and
because
maybe
it's all thirsty.
Well, I think what I've decided, maybe anime fans will show up and correct me, is that I think a lot of the allure is that so much of it is tropey, and you get to walk in the front door with a full set of expectations that will be met according to the tropes that you've already identified ahead of time. That's my amateur guess is where I am on it.
I'm okay with most anime tropes except for the weird sexual ones. Like if we could like tone those down. Like right now they're at like a 7 and I need them at like a 3.
Yeah, I can see that.
Let's do some news. Sometimes they're at an 11.
Let's do some news.
Yes.
First up, Nintendo will allow guests to the Nintendo Hotel at Universal Japan to rent an Alarmo to use during their stay. Notice I said rent.
Yes.
This is the Nintendo Hotel at Universal Japan. They will allow you the privilege of paying them more money.
You're already renting the room
for their special alarm clock.
Yeah.
Just put it in the fucking rooms, dude. Why? What do you got to rent it for? Like, what do you only got like 20 of them and you got to keep them behind the desk?
Maybe they want people to put in a deposit so they know who has which one. So the one doesn't go missing.
I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is bizarre. Like, yes. It would have been cooler if they were like, oh, the rooms will have Alarmo. Like, oh, that's cute. But like, you're checking in, you just got off your 20-hour flight to Universal Japan. And they're like, do you want to rent an alarm clock? You're like, no, I have a phone.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
All right.
I don't need Pikmin to wake me up for extra money. I wonder how much it is. Like, that's what I'm curious about. If they're like $20, like that's insane. I'd be curious to see. Fans remade the early stages of Super Mario World in 3D using Unreal 5. I saw this and it's cute.
It is very cute.
It's very cute. I would love to see more of that. But of course, much more and they'll get hit with a C&D, I'm sure. Although they may already be at threat of that. So
right.
Who the hell really knows? The ESA has announced, I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's just supposed to be Icon, but I've been calling it iIcon.
Yeah, I've also been calling it iIcon, which is stupid, and I feel that it deserves to sound stupid.
Interactive Innovation Conference, which just sounds like E3 again, and it also sounds like they couldn't think of a third I word. Because I feel like they wanted to call it I3, but then they were like, there's only 2 words that start with the letter I.
See, I feel like they didn't want to call it I3 because they didn't want the relation to E3 because that failed, and they're trying to rebrand.
Okay, all right.
I feel like this is their intentional pivot away from E3.
Maybe. Inaugural show will be April 26th, April 2026 in Vegas.
Yeah.
Have they said if this is going to be an industry event or just
okay? Yeah, it's basically just E3 again.
This is a trade show. All right, so why not call it I3?
Because the E3 failed. They don't want to be associated with it.
It only failed because they fucking ruined it.
Yeah,
they
failed
ruin
this too.
Wario Land 4 has been added to Nintendo Switch Online Plus Plus. Which I presume will get more letters and symbols once the Switch 2 comes out.
I'm starting to think the only reason they called it the Switch 2 is so that they wouldn't have to spend the money to rebrand Nintendo Switch Online.
Nintendo Switch Online and Nintendo Switch Online Plus Plus with Expansion Pass?
Yeah.
Possibly. Wario Land 4 is a good game, though. If people haven't played Wario Land 4, it's good. All the Wario Lands are pretty darn good. Worth playing. Bloodborne PS1 demake creator has been hit by Sony with a DMCA takedown. This is on the back of them taking down the 60 FPS mod.
Yeah.
Last time, it hopefully, like you said, it means that they're coming out with something Bloodborne related.
Yeah.
It could just be them being litigious assholes. Who knows? It's hard to say.
Not Sony. They would never do that.
But the PS1 demake of Bloodborne has been going on for a while. Like, this is not... Like, it's not like early days, This one's been around for a minute, so it's got to be extra
like a year or
devastating.
so that we've been hearing about it at least.
Yeah, so extra upsetting to the. I looked it up. Bloodborne PSX is 2022.
Yeah, so a few years now.
It's been a fucking minute. So that sucks.
Right.
I lost my place. Square Enix showed off a Chocobo-themed Steam Deck. Saturn wrote, "Looks fucking disgusting," is what he wrote. I thought it looked great.
Oh, can you imagine how gross that's going to get?
My favorite, someone in the comments was like, "It looks like it's the Chocobo's asshole, and you're staring into it to play Final Fantasy VII."
I believe they said that it looks like the cloaca, which is more medically accurate.
Pardon me. The medically accurate Chocobo cloaca. And I think they're right. I do see a beak coming out the bottom, but it does look like it is the asshole of the Chocobo.
It's like you're grabbing the hips and just staring square into that cloaca. Yeah, that is a gross looking controller. It's gonna get so gross when somebody gets even slightly sweaty with it. Ugh.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, this was like a fun one-off marketing stunt. They're not selling these. Thing. It's not nothing of the sort.
And I think they showed it running FF7 Rebirth or something.
I think it was running Rebirth. It was running one of the FF7 remake games. But I presume it was Rebirth. Anyway. Embracer Group has spun off Asmodee as per their previous plans to split into 3 companies. I'm happy about this one. Asmodee is one of the largest, if not the largest, tabletop games company in the world.
Now Embracer is still maintaining a bit of ownership of it throughout the split off, right?
But but that's my understanding.
Yeah.
But having Asmodee getting to operate independently again and not being completely controlled by Embracer from the top is nice. Although Asmodee was already kind of like the shitty corporate tabletop company, and so is what it is.
Right.
But they publish a huge amount of board games.
Yeah.
So nice to see that they're not going away, which would be devastating to the tabletop industry. Warner Brothers Discovery says their video game division lost $300 million last year.
Maybe they should spin off Atari again.
Maybe they should fucking try harder. That's my thought. I know. It's just shocking.
They also announced that they were canceling that Multiversus game that they tried to make as the Smash Brothers clone, effectively.
I was shocked they maintained that as long as they did, to be honest.
Yeah. It was free to play for a long time, but a bunch of people did buy $100 creators packs or whatever for it. And they're getting nothing out of it apparently. So good job, Warner.
You gave money to Warner, so
you did get that out of it.
Just what
you got to play as Shaggy versus Scorpion. I hope you're happy.
Scorpion would annihilate Shaggy.
Turns out it not always.
That doesn't even make sense.
I know.
Valve has banned games that make their money via forced ads. Turns out this is not actually a new policy. For whatever reason, it popped back up in the news feeds recently. But it is a policy that Valve has, that you cannot have forced advertisements where like, oh, you died. If you watch this ad, you can respawn in your game on Steam, which that's how that should be.
Yeah. I wish every storefront should do that.
Yeah, all companies should have that policy. Yes. A new survey from Consumer Reports says that 14% of Americans still play games on platforms released before the year 2000. Those old blocky games.
I'm going to say a follow-up survey that I'm doing right now says that a majority of the survey respondents from Consumer Reports are fucking old.
This is true. If you're under 40 and you respond to Consumer Reports surveys, please write in.
Please, let us know.
Because
also, if you're under 40 and listening to the show and respond to a Consumer Reports survey, we would really like to know who you are.
And if you also want to weigh in on anime tropes, if we can just find the person that Venn diagram is a perfect circle, there's at least one of them out there. It's nice to see this, that retro gaming is still relevant. What's weird to me is it's only 14%, and the retro collectible market is in such an inflated state.
Well, that's just specifically playing games on the hardware from that era, not the entire retro gaming market.
Right. I'm just saying that for that number to be that low, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to get around to is
I think that number's inflated.
You think that number is too high?
Oh, yeah. I think that number is very inflated. I think there's far less than 14% still playing on hardware from before 2000.
I don't know, man.
There's no way it's that high.
Really
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. I would have said the opposite, that feels low.
If it was that high, the prices would be 10 times what they are now. Because you have to remember, 14%, that's more than 3 million people in the U.S.
True.
Wait, no, that's more than 30 million people in the U.S.
All right, that's a bigger number, yeah.
And a lot of those NES games only printed, a couple 100,000 copies, if that.
Right, but a lot
that's
of those
the more
NES
successful
games
ones
are low G, man. So
I'm saying the more successful ones printed a few 100,000 copies. A lot of the less successful ones printed like 10,000, 20,000 copies, if that.
And
I'd be and if there's 30 million people all trying to get them, that'd be exorbitant.
That's true. You've used the power of math to persuade me. The SEC has confirmed that they are actively investigating Roblox, but won't go into details at this time. Why did you wait so fucking long, Roblox? SEC. Roblox has been doing all sorts of
shadiest shit for a long time.
Leaks imply the investigation may include inflating metrics to mislead investors and lax safety measures regarding protecting children from predators. What? Not Roblox. What?
I think the first half of that sentence probably explains why it's taken them this long.
Yeah, very possible.
They finally are misleading investors, and that was what got their attention.
Yeah. Hopefully this leads to some reform. What's weird to me is I've never seen anyone play Roblox.
Yeah, I've not met anybody in person that says they play Roblox.
Insanely popular.
Oh, yeah.
Like a ridiculous, blowout level popularity.
My nephew will watch people playing Roblox on Twitch for 6 hours at a time.
It doesn't compete with other games. It competes with whole other platforms.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah, we'll see what comes out of that. State of Play happened. There's a new Lizard Cube developed Shinobi game and a bunch of other stuff. But mostly a new Lizard Cube developed Shinobi game, so that's exciting. Lizard Cube, who did the Wonder Boy remake several years ago.
Yep.
Streets of Rage 4.
That was almost 10 years ago that came out.
Oh my god. Oh my god, no. Why? Yeah. GOG is delisting their unique version of Daggerfall. I forget what makes their version of unique, but you could have gotten it for free for a while. And there are some things specific to the GOG version that's different than the version that you get in other places. And if you're listening to this now, then it's already gone. So I hope you got it. And it's been delisted from GOG.
That's
so
unfortunate. I have it in my GOG library somehow. I did not buy it.
I think it was free. It was free for a while.
I think it was probably free for a while.
Yeah. So that's probably how you ended up with it. That's how I ended up with it anyway.
I just looked it up. Lizard Cube's remake of Dragon's Trap. It'll be 8 years old next month.
Oh my god.
Yep.
And finally, Hudson's 2006 SimCity mobile game has been preserved as part of an ongoing project to preserve Japanese feature phone games. I am glad because I liked feature phone games. I played some feature phone games, and I even at the time I was like, man, these are gonna be gone in a couple years.
And not too many of them even released outside of Japan. So many of them were Japanese exclusive.
Yeah, there was for people that weren't around in the era, feature phones were a much bigger deal in Japan. Mm-hmm. I feel
and
like
much more powerful over there than they were over here. We got shitty ones.
I mean, we still got feature phones, but the idea of using the features on a feature phone, seemed to catch on more in Japan. A lot of people here, they'd have a feature phone, but they didn't do feature phone shit on it. They just did phone calls and texting. And
I had a bunch of games on my feature phone.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I remember I played the shit out of the feature phone Splinter Cell game.
I had Mega Man 2 on my feature phone. I had some Castlevania game that I think was custom built for it, and I had Silent Hill on there, which was a weird spin-off Silent Hill game that has never been re-released in any
there are
form.
A few weird feature phone specific versions of well-known games. It was a very weird era.
Yeah. But the game that I played the most on there was, for some reason, Monopoly Here and Now edition.
All right then. Okay.
My ex bought on my phone on a whim when I wasn't looking.
Yeah.
Because she didn't realize that was a real marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I had it, I was like, oh, I can just play Monopoly while I'm sitting in my car. All right.
I can hate my life anywhere now. Which brings us to our topic at hand.
Yeah.
Which is our last episode was kind of a remaster of an early episode we did, This episode is our fourth controllers episode. And it is by popular demand.
Yeah.
Mind you.
We're constantly asked, when are we doing another controllers episode?
And at first we were like, ha 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 ha, what a silly funny joke that you people are making. No.
Another one, and then we did another one.
They mean it. They're like, no, we'll listen to y'all talk about controllers all day long. So this is Controllers 4. Saturn wrote, this time it's personal. We've couched it in...
hold on.
What?
I put, this time it's personal opinion.
Okay.
Because it's our personal opinions
I think
about
this was
controllers.
Originally couched in a top 10 list of some sort.
Yeah.
But as the notes went on, that fully degraded. For synopsis, you wrote, if we talk about controllers at less than 55 words per minute, the bus will explode. And I wrote, get ready for us to say 8-bit dough about 1,000 times.
Oh, they insist that it's pronounced 8-bit do.
They're wrong.
They're very wrong.
It's 8-bit dough. I think they're trying to be legally distinct from Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure they are. We had a survey in our Discord like 4 years ago where we asked people to weigh in on that, and everybody agreed that it is 8-bit dough.
Yeah, there you go. So here we are. More controller talk. This one is just all opinions. We've broke them down into categories that I loosely or very often just didn't follow. So basically, it's going to be roughly 20 to 30 minutes of us just discussing controllers.
You played on the Dreamcast controller?
For first impressions, let's see. I wrote, the Dreamcast controller is a war crime. And you wrote that I'm a wrongie with big hands.
Which is accurate, unlike your statement.
I'll accept that. I'll accept that.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with this because this is the most recent controller I believe we've both purchased.
Yes,
and
sir.
you talked about it recently, but I want to have a small break to talk and just kind of have a review of Hori's Steam controller.
Yeah.
Which
I'm still enjoying.
Because I got one too.
Yeah.
We have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so for people that don't know, this was Hori's controller. They released it. Was originally just in Japan for a little bit, and it came to the States.
Yep.
It is kind of mostly your standard controller, which you talked about in your review a little bit. You got your face buttons, your 4 trigger buttons. You got your 2 back paddles, your 2 front programmable buttons.
Yep.
I really enjoy, because I use the Steam controller overlay all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to reprogram my buttons in the Steam controller overlay because it recognizes the programmable buttons is very nice. I like that a lot. A lot of
it gives you a lot more control over them because you don't just have to have them mirror a different controller or a different button or whatever.
I will say it's very comfortable in the hand.
Yeah.
Build quality leaves a little to be desired. Kind of the seams and finish are a little cheap feeling, but it's ergonomically
issue
comfortable
on mine,
enough.
but could just be luck of the draw.
It is very, very, very light.
Yeah, I mentioned that last time.
And it's because it has no rumble. There's no rumble motors in this thing.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it had, I hadn't noticed rumble, but I wasn't ready to say definitively that it didn't have it last time.
There's no rumble in this thing, and
Right.
I dislike that. I like rumble.
Yeah.
Rumble's one of those things where, like, I like it when it's there. When it's not there, I might not notice it, but when it is there, I do notice it, and I do appreciate it, so that one's kind of a loss for me.
Depends on the game. There are games where I just want to turn rumble off.
Really?
There are other games where I'll use it pretty extensively, but there are some games where the rumble bothers me.
I've had some Bluetooth controllers kind of freak out, and they'll rumble for too long, which this is an issue. In case I forget to mention it, on my 8-bit dough Ultimate controllers, every now and then when they rumble, they'll rumble for 20 consecutive seconds, and then just stop and not do it again for 3 months.
Yeah, there's some
weirdest
games I've noticed, especially games that were originally designed for PS5, that when they get ported to PC, they have awkward rumble support, and it'll just end up rumbling forever for no reason.
It's very weird. My point is, having no rumble means it's very light, which it makes it feel extremely cheap.
Yeah.
But it also makes it really light in the hand, like because I play a lot with my Xbox Elite 2, and that thing's heavy as shit. It's like holding a brick. And this thing, so it can get fatiguing, like heavier controllers, and this is very you don't notice at all. The weight is non-existent. which is nice. It does have gyro, which I did not have a chance to test because gyro sucks. I don't like it.
I am slowly coming around to gyro in certain applications.
I do like the face buttons on it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they're not that very slick, shiny acrylic that like Xbox controllers have, which can get a little kind of tacky feeling, like when my hands are getting kind of sweaty or whatever.
Don't have that issue.
Yeah, well, whatever. I also like the triggers on it. The triggers are very much like Steam Deck feeling triggers. They're not very deep.
Mm-hmm.
They feel,
but they are analog.
They are analog, yes.
Yeah.
But they're kind of shallow, which I've come to really appreciate more shallow triggers. On my
but
Xbox,
it does have a little toggle that'll let you turn on digital triggers if you so choose.
Yeah. I on my Xbox Elite, I usually flip it to the shallowest because the trigger depth is adjustable, and I'll often switch it to the shallowest just because it's just pulling a trigger all the way in feels kind of uncomfortable on games where you're doing it over and over and over and over again. It does not like Windows doesn't like it. I think it's an SDL controller instead of X input.
You can switch to X input. There's a toggle on the back.
Right, but X input is only for wired mode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I forgot about
yeah, so you can do X input, but it's got to be wired. If you're doing wireless, it's SDL, which Steam is fine with, but it means that if you just want to go fire up a GOG game without the Steam overlay, it's not going to interpret your controller correctly, most likely.
I'm just using it on my Steam Deck, so it's not a concern on my end.
I did find it weird that it includes a dongle, and I was like, oh, it's 2.4 gigahertz. This is great because
no, it's not.
Because my computer is behind my TV. It's a desktop machine. It's stuck behind my TV, and the Bluetooth on it is a little iffy because it's going through a TV and it's a little tiny little nubbin dongle. This included a dongle. The dongle is just literally a generic Bluetooth dongle.
Generic Bluetooth adapter. Yeah.
And I'm like, why did you include this? Like, who's buying a controller in 2025 and is like, yeah, I need a Steam controller, but I don't have Bluetooth. Very weird.
Fortunately, Bluetooth range has gotten much better. I can have something sitting at the other end of my apartment and still access it from my car outside. So Bluetooth is getting better. It's not as big of a deal.
Not for me. Bluetooth range on this was not usable for me. I had to move.
Weird.
I had to move my Bluetooth dongle in front of my television because I was getting missed inputs.
Oh, weird. Yeah, I can bring this into the bedroom and still get a good signal on it from the living room. So,
yeah. Well, granted, it's going literally straight through my TV, so that's probably not helping it. But overall, I would happily pay like $10 to $15 more for a version with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle and Rumble and X input.
Yeah.
If it had those things, this would be like top notch.
I mean, it does have X input, just only wired.
Yeah, but it might as well look. If you're gonna make me plug my wired controller in 2025, no,
on my
unacceptable.
on my Windows machine, I only use wired controllers.
No.
Yeah.
No. If it had those things, wireless X input, Rumble, and 2.4 gigahertz, this would be like I would put everything in a box. I would be using this thing. I will say, if all you ever use is Steam, like you're like, I only do PC gaming in Steam, I never do anything else anywhere else, and you don't mind missing out on Rumble, it's still kind of worth the price tag, but just barely for me. It's not like a top-notch controller. It's just like it feels kind of cheap. It's missing a couple features I'd really like to have that aren't quite deal breakers, but aren't far from it, and it's really good in Steam.
Mine is being used exclusively as a controller for my Steam Deck when it's in docked mode, and it is excellent for that.
Yeah, if you're looking for something for that, and again, you don't mind missing out on Rumble, then I would say that's a very good application for it. Absolutely, it is. Yeah. I wanted to kind of bitch about the $50 price tag, but $50 is cheaper than OEM controllers
these days,
by like still $20.
Yep.
And it has almost as many features. So like actual feature to price tag ratio, I think is, with the inflation of where things are now, pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Man, I miss when I could just buy a generic ass controller for $7.
Oh yeah. But from where I'm sitting, like, this would be like an in-game for me if they would tack on about $15-$20 worth of features onto it. Then it'd be like, I'm over. So I really hope they come out with like a revision of this. I'd really like to see that.
It's fair.
But yeah. Let's get into our categories.
Okay.
First up is OEM controllers. Definition: first-party controllers for any console, not required to come bundled with the console itself. And Saturn, I'm going to let you go first here.
So I'm gonna go with the modern Xbox controller.
Mm-hmm.
I specifically put the Series XS controller, but really the Xbox One controller is practically identical.
Sure.
It's comfortable. It's got that nice grip on the back on the Series X and S version anyway. And it just doesn't try to do anything weird.
Yeah.
And also it still takes batteries, so I don't have to worry about charging it all the time.
Yep.
And if its battery dies, I can just immediately put new batteries in it instead of having to find a cord or angle myself to fit into a charger or whatever.
Yeah.
And also just it's widely compatible with all kinds of shit.
Yep.
Which is very nice. I can use it on my phone. I can use it on my computer. I can use it on whatever.
Yeah.
So it's nice. I am a fan of it. Also, the D-pads on both the Xbox One and the Series X and S controller are very nice. So I'm a big fan of all that.
I also gave my OEM controller pick to the Xbox controller.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tough contender because I do like the Switch Pro controller.
Switch Pro is very good, yeah.
Quite a bit. The battery life on it is insane.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on record as loving the big, flat, round, matte face buttons on it. But compatibility won out for me. I put nearly any Xbox controller is what I put. I specifically the Series X controller for the reasons you said. I love the texturing on it. It's widely compatible. But I'll even go so far back as the 360 controller. Like in general, the design and compatibility of most all Xbox controllers since the 360 has been...
That D-pad on the 360 controller, man.
You know, I remember so many complaints about 360 D-pads, and I never minded it.
Oh, I hated it.
I never did.
I'd gotten that special edition 360 controller with the rotating D-pad that would lose its circle so that it was just a cross, and I used the shit out of that one. That was my favorite.
It's just Xbox controllers are almost boring. They're almost so ubiquitous that it's just like boring. It's the default. It has become the default icon of what if you're going to put a picture of a controller, like a controller emoji probably looks like an Xbox controller.
And also, any games on mobile or on PC that just want to use generic controller inputs, almost always use Xbox controller icons.
Yeah, for sure. What's your honorable mention for favorite OEM controller?
I'm going to go with the DualSense. I was going back and forth between DualSense and Switch, but I'm going to go with the DualSense just because the adaptive triggers or the resistive triggers rather, super nice. The rumble on it is super, super nice. I actually like the rumble on it slightly more than on the Switch Pro controller. The complaints I have about it are the lack of replaceable battery, and also the built-in battery lasts like 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
And the speaker is just way too fucking loud on it. Fortunately, you can change the volume on it, but it's still way too fucking loud.
Yeah.
And I'm not in love with the touchpad, but I do appreciate that it does have like pretty much everything that a modern controller should have built into it, and also a stupid touchpad.
Yeah.
So at least it's not taking
it's
something
not
away to put that in there. Yeah. So it's a nice, and it's got a good weight to it, and it feels premium when you hold it. Even if, it's, I still feel that I fear that it's not going to, last super, super long life wise, but
longevity
it feels premium,
it look that really all the PlayStation 5 hardware from the console to the controllers look like things that 10 years from now are going to be like, yeah, they didn't hold up good.
Right. I'm worried about that, but it does feel very nice in the hands. It's comfortable and it plays well. So I'm going with that.
My honorable mention for favorite OEM controller was the GameCube controller.
I did keep thinking about that.
It's quirky, but all of the quirks on it are interesting and fun.
Yeah.
I will say, so with the GameCube and PS2 and Xbox, I was like 11, 12 when they were like hitting the market. And I remember it being a problem that I'm switching between different legends on the front of these controllers all the time. Because I go to my friends' houses and I play their PlayStations, or I'd go, one of my friends had a PlayStation, another one had an Xbox, I had a GameCube, and then eventually I had all three. And I remember vividly having different shaped face buttons, not only as a fun idea, but also helped me with kind of mentally mapping the controller. I even to this day, I will still occasionally on a PlayStation layout, have to look down and go, where the fuck is square again? I'm a grown 36-year-old man. I don't know what part of my brain I need to not be stupid in this way, but I don't have it.
The GameCube controller is the only one where I still have to look down when I'm using it.
I never have to look at that.
I never remember which one is X and which one is Y on the GameCube controller.
It never. I'm fine with it.
I love the GameCube controller. It is super comfortable.
It's so comfy.
It's just a great controller. My complaints with the GameCube controller today are still my same complaints that I had then.
Baby D-pad?
What's that?
Is it the baby D-pad?
No, it's not even the D-pad. I can deal with the D-pad. It's not great, but it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
My complaints are the imbalanced shoulder buttons. How there's a Z on the right but not on the left.
Oh, that's a weird complaint. All right.
So any games that do use both bumpers and both triggers has to remap something somewhere else. And also not being able to click in the analog sticks.
Never would have occurred to me. Yeah, I mean, if I'm playing, granted, GameCube control is unique enough that if you're using it on a GameCube, but I can't imagine.
The thing is, back when the three systems were still current,
sure,
I would tend to try to get things on GameCube when I could, but then I would get them home, and if it was a multi-platform game that was on all the different systems, it would have weird controls because the controller was different. It was having to remap whatever it had already done on PS2
also, no
and Xbox.
select button either, which is another
exactly
oddity. Yeah,
which not as many games use select, or at least not as heavily as they would other buttons. So I was willing to look over that, but it's just missing enough inputs compared to its contemporaries that there were occasionally problems with that.
I found the GameCube still so comfy. My complaints with it are D-pad's a little small. I'm with you. I'll tolerate it. It's a little small.
Yeah.
Also, the controller, the triggers are almost a little too deep. So, like,
True.
anything using lots of trigger presses can kind of wear your fingers out. But beyond that, ergonomically, it's so insanely comfortable.
It was good for games that really did take advantage of analog.
Absolutely, yeah.
stuff.
You had a ton of range of motion on that. And you could really pinpoint it.
Like if you were playing a racing game and you wanted to use it as a foot pedal, it gave you a ton of analog sensitivity there.
Category 2 is third-party controllers. My pick was the 8BitDo Ultimate. This is my go-to third-party controller. I was on the Pro 2 for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I made the move to the Ultimate, and I find myself struggling to go back to the Pro 2. It effectively, honestly, feels like an Xbox controller. It's 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth. It's got as far as I know, all of them come with a charging base, which is really nice. I love having a charging base for any controller. It makes it so much more convenient. It's got USB-C charging. They also sell alternate face buttons on their website. So my two,
so you can swap them out.
Yeah, my two didn't match. One of them was Nintendo face button because it was the regular Ultimate, and then the other one was the Ultimate with Bluetooth. And it had Xbox layout, and so I ordered the buttons and then just remapped the controller in their software and then popped the faceplate off and changed out the buttons. It's got back paddles. Yep. I love controllers that have back paddles, especially programmable ones. I've gotten very accustomed to having those. My only
on anything.
Oh, I use them all the time. My only complaints are that programming it, you do have to use their software. I can't do it in like the Steam overlay or whatever because it doesn't recognize the programmable buttons as discrete buttons. Which is kind of a pain in the ass, which means you're not doing it on the fly, but it's still nice to have the option available. It is everything I want. I still prefer and use 2.4 gigahertz dongles when I can, just because I move my controllers between different machines a lot, and not having to repair Bluetooth is just an extra little thing that I can skip having to do by just plugging the shit in,
Yeah.
It's really become kind of my standard go-to controller. Like this is what I'm going to use on everything that it will let me.
Yeah. I was actually tempted here, but I actually caved in and used that on a later entry.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, and I will, since we're talking about it already anyway, I'm going to mention my one complaint with the 8BitDo Ultimate.
Yes.
Because it is an excellent controller and I also enjoy it. At least when you're using it on a PC, I'll leave it on the charger all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the charger also acts as the receiver for it.
The dongle plugs in the bottom of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the way that the controller works is while it is charging, the computer does not see it. And it is once you pick up the controller and it activates, that's when the computer sees it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have several games that if you do not already have a controller plugged in when you start the game, they will not work with controllers. And so if I don't remember to pick up my controller first and wait for it to connect before I tell my game to start, I then have to close out of my game and restart it after it is connected.
That would
and
be
that
an
is
issue.
a problem.
The way my living room is set up is they're behind my TV on top of my computer. So I will grab the controller, hit the home button to open big picture mode in Steam, and then select my game. So I've always got it connected and working before I jump into a game.
Yeah. But that's my only real criticism. Everything else is just excellent. Just a fantastic controller. But I did choose the Pro 2 because I'm still just a huge fan of the grip and the layout on the Pro 2. I don't use rear triggers or any extraneous buttons very often at all.
Yeah.
So that is not a huge selling point for me. And I just really like the design and the grip of the Pro 2. I've got the Xbox version of it that has, in addition to all of 8BitDo's buttons, it also has an Xbox button in the center, which gives it the extra compatibility with Xbox consoles as well, which has been very nice. Whenever I want to replay a retro game on my Xbox, I can use a controller that has got a much bigger and more traditional D-pad for those games, and that's just great.
And also the D-pad is placed in, it's symmetrical sticks. The sticks are on the bottom. The D-pad is more in line with the face buttons for people that used to be a thing I desired. I've reached a point where I don't, for whatever reason, that preference has changed for me. It does not bother me. But yeah, I know there are people that are like, no, I want my D-pad symmetrical with my face buttons if I'm playing retro style stuff. And then, the Pro 2's the one to do it. Also, the newer Pro 2's have the Hall effect joysticks as well.
Yep.
So
one issue I will give with, this is actually with all of 8BitDo's controllers for that matter, is I have learned that if you're using any of the Nintendo layout 8BitDo controllers, which until recently was most of them.
Yeah.
But now they've started to use the Xbox layout more often. But if you're using any of those with Android as a controller, it will translate the buttons directly. So, like I was playing Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster with the 8BitDo, the older 8BitDo Pro that still used the Nintendo layout, and it had adjusted so that A was still accept and B was still cancel and X was still switch and Y was still menu, but that's not where the buttons should be for those games. And it was driving me insane because I was trying to do muscle memory what should be the buttons, and it was trying to do what the legend on the controller said. I'm like, no, stop doing that.
Right.
So that's frustrating. But I don't know if that's a specific 8BitDo driver issue on Android, because I've not had that issue with any other controller, including the Switch controller. So I don't know exactly what was causing that.
Yeah. I don't have an honorable mention for this category, so I'll let you just keep the floor for your honorable mention for third-party controller.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Retro Fighters Defender.
Okay.
I am a fan of this. I picked it up for my PS3 this past year. It is.
I keep
excellent.
almost getting, because they have a bunch of different retro fighters. I keep almost getting one, and then I don't pull the trigger.
Well, I got this specifically because I hate the PS3 controller.
I remember, which as well you should, because it's a garbage controller.
Terrible controller.
Yeah.
This is very nice. It is still lightweight, not quite as lightweight as the OEM PS3 controller, but still very lightweight. But otherwise, it's comfortable. It's functional. It does have the rumble. It does have all the functions you would expect from a PS3 controller, like 6-axis and all that. But it just is less shitty.
Yeah.
The battery lasts longer. It's a nice controller.
Does it still use micro USB charging, or have they upgraded
USB-C?
Thank goodness. Oh my
Right?
god. No,
and it was
PS3.
It was mini USB.
Mini
is
USB.
What PS3
the same as the Wii U. Fuck.
Yep.
Fucking garbage connector.
Right? Yeah, no, it's USB-C, which is very nice.
That brings us to category 3, which is specialty/unique function controllers. I picked a theme for this one.
Oh.
So for my picks in this category, I focused on the best retro controller that has no extra bells or whistles. They all have some extra bells or whistles, spoiler. But for people that require a controller that kind of fits the design of the games they're playing, and having extra buttons and triggers would kind of serve as like a mental reminder that you're just playing an emulated software thing on a laptop.
Okay.
So controllers, like my pick here, which is the 8BitDo M30, which does have some extra buttons.
That doesn't feel specialty or unique to me.
It is specialty and unique because let me say, there's not a lot of 6-button controllers out there.
That's fair. That's becoming less common these days.
The four-face button layout has won that particular war.
It's true.
So I would say the M30 is easily the best 6-button pad ever made because it is copying the Saturn pad and just making it a little more ergonomic and functional.
Right.
It's 8BitDo, so it supports all the usual platforms: Android, iOS, Windows, Switch, Mac, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
I will say getting the buttons programmed properly can be a pain because everything assumes cross-shaped button layouts. True. And so getting things mapped kind of the way that is comfortable for whatever game you're playing can be a little bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's got battery life for days. It really is kind of the only choice if you really need a pre-Dreamcast Sega layout for something to feel right, like, or for fighting games or whatever you're doing. And I've got original Saturn controllers. I've played the different models of Saturn controllers at your place. I've got Japanese Saturn controllers. I even have some of the retro-bit Saturn controllers that they did. And nothing is as good as the M30. Like if you're like, I need the best 6-button Sega layout controller. I don't want something with sticks or all this extra shit. I want like a retro styled 6-button.
And with
Sega
an adapter,
controller.
You can even use it on a Saturn, which
Absolutely.
is really nice.
It's a phenomenal controller. My only complaint is that because software never expects 6-button controllers, getting it mapped the way you want is sometimes a pain in the ass.
Unless you're playing games from back in the day from a Sega console.
But man, it's so good. They've updated the firmware several times on it so that you can actually kind of swap the face buttons around with some power on commands that make it kind of more in line with what the software is expecting a lot of the time. Just a fantastic 6-button controller. Love this controller. Love it in general. But for so much expects that standard 4-button and then shoulder button thing layout. And it does have shoulder buttons, which are basically L2, R2. But because everything expects that traditional layout, it can feel a little weird in some games. But if you are playing 6-button games, in my mind, there is no other 6-button controller. This is the one. This is a phenomenal controller that I would recommend to anyone after that layout. What's your pick for specialty controllers?
It's the Steel Battalion controller.
Oh. I have like 4 more picks in this category, so I'm going to let you talk about it for a minute before you get to all my other ones. I have multiple honorable mentions.
I fucking love the Steel Battalion controller. It's enormous. It's stupid. It is way more than anything ever needed. If I could connect it to my computer and use it for all kinds of games, it would be amazing.
I've only gotten to play it that time you brought it over to my house when we did the Steel Battalion episode.
It's so unfortunate that the only game it supports is Steel Battalion.
Steel Battalion, yeah. Because even the Steel Battalion sequel was like a Kinect piece of shit, wasn't it?
There was the one sequel that was on the original Xbox that
wasn't it like online only? There
that
was
Xbox
weird
Live
with it.
mostly.
All right.
There's a little bit of offline on the disc, but barely.
Not much.
And then the next game after that was 360 Kinect, which is just unfortunate.
I got to play it one time, and it's a trip.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a trip.
All the lights and everything on there, it's amazing. The toggle switches and the little door for the eject button. The whole experience is just, it's like being a kid in an arcade for the first time again.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like that every time I sit down with it. It's that stupid and giant. I love the idea of how stupid and over the top they went with it. And I've got an adapter to plug Xbox controllers into my PC and buy an adapter. I took one of the
somewhere has to have figured out how to make it work in MechWarrior.
So no, last I checked anyway. Apparently Xbox controllers are USB. The original Xbox. Yep. They don't use a USB connector, but they are USB.
Yeah.
Right. They used a proprietary connector, and so I have. Because they all were breakaway. I have a breakaway that was cut and then resoldered onto a USB connector so that it would work just USB, and it works with every Xbox controller except for that one. And I don't know if it's a driver issue. I've been told it might be a power issue, that USB as a standard doesn't deliver enough power for that controller.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine that's still the case today with USB 2 and 3 and 4 and all that.
Right.
But it's a USB 1.1 cable. So I don't know exactly what the problem is. Last I checked, maybe somebody's found a solution in the last couple of years since I looked. But last I checked, you just can't use it on a PC with anything, which is really unfortunate because that controller deserves to come out of retirement and be used for all kinds of really dumb things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would love to see somebody play through Dark Souls on a Steel Battalion controller. I just want to see it.
Yeah. I have many honorable mentions. Remember, I just for when you said specialty, I'm like, all right, this is what I decided specialty means. So again, this is best retro controller that fits specifically the platform you're using it on. I have a backup 6-button controller, and this one's hard to find now, but this is the Retro Flag Classic.
Okay.
Kind of keeps in the same vein. It is the same 6-button layout, but you used to be able to get wired versions of this for like $10.
Okay.
And it wasn't nearly as premium as the M30 by a long shot, but if you're on like a super hyper budget and you can find a Retro Flag Classic, which it might still be floating around in some shops, it's a pretty darn good 6-button controller. It feels like a $10 controller, but it does the job just fine. I played tons of games with the Retro Flag Classic.
Nice.
I do want to mention there's a wireless version of the same controller, but it costs the same as the M30, so just get the M30 at that point. The M30 is the better controller, hands down. But if you're like, hey, I need to spend less than $10, then if you can find it, the Retro Flag Classic, it works. It's just a wired USB controller, and it does the job. And it's still better than the Retro Bit Genesis or Saturn controllers, which fucked up the triggers. Or the shoulder buttons, I should say. No, they're not triggers.
Buttons. Right.
Also, the Nintendo Switch Online Super Nintendo controller. For people that forgot that came out. So we've had 3 waves of NSO controllers so far. The NES ones, which were stupid because they charged by sliding onto the Switch rail. Have we had 4 waves?
Yeah, because there was a Genesis controller as well.
Oh, yeah, I forget about the Genesis. Yeah. Which I've not tried. That one could be good. We have the N64 controller, which is an N64 controller. But the Super Nintendo controller is really good. So like 8-bit controllers often ape the Super Nintendo design, and they get very close to feeling correct, right?
Yeah.
But the Nintendo Switch Super Nintendo controller is correct.
A Super Nintendo controller.
It is a Super Nintendo.
They used the molds.
Yeah, if you're like, no, I need exactly the gray and purple plastic of a real deal Super Nintendo controller, there's nothing is as close as this.
And if you're outside of the US, you're not going to get gray and purple plastic.
Right, you can get the wrong
correct
colors
instead.
Yeah. If you want to be wrong, you can do that. But this thing is still available for $30, which is it's a little steep, but it's not outrageous. I mean, it's in line with what 8-bit charges for most of their stuff. It has gained support across a lot of platforms. It works natively on Steam Deck now after an update. It's USB-C rechargeable. It works on Switch. It'll work on PC. Like it is a Super Nintendo controller gutted, and it has modern stuff thrown into it so that it works.
I do want to mention real quick the Genesis controller because I picked it up. It's good.
Yeah.
It's a good controller. However, in the West, we only got a 3-button controller for Genesis on NSO. In Japan, got the 6-button controller again.
Yeah.
I've not been able to try that one. I'm upset that we didn't get it again.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's probably fine.
If you're a big-time Super Nintendo fan, do not sleep on the Super Nintendo Nintendo Switch controller. Don't. It's good. My final one is for PC. The 8-bit Retro 87 keyboards. Because the keyboard is a controller too. It is a controller too.
Yeah.
Like I talked about mine last episode. 2.4 gigahertz, Bluetooth right out of the box. Physical volume knob, which is weird and fun. It's programmable. The software comes. The regular ones come with Kill Box White switches. The Xbox One specifically comes with the Jellyfish X switches. If you're a mechanical keyboard dork.
Nope.
But it comes in a bunch of classic variants. So you have the console-themed ones, which are the Xbox. They have a Sega Saturn one, an NES, and a Famicom one. But also, if you're maybe putting together like a retro computer-style sleeper build thing, they have a classic computer like gray on off-white IBM Model M looking colored one.
They also have a Commodore 64 color one, which
Yes.
I keep staring at. If they would release it with the numpad, I'd probably cave in.
Yeah, that's the 108, which they only have in the NES and Famicom colors, which is unfortunate. So, like, this thing isn't as chunky as a real old school Model M or a C64 keyboard.
Close.
The mechanical key switches, they will get you close. And with the proper color schemes, again, this is my specialty category. This is the person that's like, no, I need my control method to visually match what I'm doing. And this exists. It's a thing. It's a thing, and it's normal. This is normal people feelings.
For you.
If you're like, hey, I want to play C64, but playing on my like RGB light up, rainbow puke Corsair keyboard feels wrong, then this will feel a lot closer to correct.
Yeah.
By quite a good margin. So don't sleep on these. They're just really good mechanical keyboards, honestly.
I also keep thinking about getting one just to connect it into my C64 Mini, but that feels insane.
No,
that
it's
feels
not
insane.
It's what this category is built for, Saturn. It would be great. We said this when the mini consoles came out, which is that something about having the right controller with the game, it feels right.
But also, the only games I'm going to play on my C64 Mini are all joystick games.
Hush up. It'll look correct, and that's what matters. Category 4. Let's move on.
I did have an honorable mention there.
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's the Slime controller.
Oh, my God. This is PS2 Slime controller?
Yes, this PS2 Slime controller. If you've never used it, it's super comfortable.
Is it? I always wondered. It looks like pillowy.
It is so... No, it's not. It's not at all pillowy.
Oh, really?
No. It's just soft plastic. But it's super comfortable. It kind of feels like the same texture plastic material that they use on ThinkPad palm rests.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing I can think of that feels like it. But it's just the actual shape design of the controller looks stupid, and as soon as you start holding it, it's so comfortable. Comfortable. However,
they're insanely expensive now, aren't they?
Yeah, now they are.
Yeah.
They had made a second batch of them for the Switch when Dragon Quest XI came out, and those are also expensive now.
Oh.
But no, the downside is, and the reason why I didn't buy it again when it came out on Switch, is because of that texture that they make it out of. It gets super sticky, and it's the same way that PS2 analog sticks get super sticky,
gummy. Yeah,
and they basically unusable at that point. Only unlike a PS2 analog stick where you just replace it, you can't replace the entire shell of this thing.
Yeah,
and so if you used them, they eventually become unusable because of this sticky residue. So
how sad!
It's unfortunate that they were that way, and that's why it was only an honorable mention, not the main thing.
Category 4 is universal / multi-purpose controllers, and I just literally cheated on this one. So my main pick is the 8BitDo USB wireless adapter 2, because I'm a filthy cheater.
That's fair. That's a perfectly valid pick.
With this adapter, you can use any old controller you already have lying around from your current console and move it to PC. It works on Switch, SteamOS, Windows 10, Raspberry Pi, Android, Mac, blah blah blah. The usual suspects.
Yeah.
What I love about this is it's wireless adapter. It syncs with a button press. So the same way you sync an Xbox controller, where you push the sync button, then you push the button on the controller, which is great. And it also means that you can sync quickly, and you can easily move that Bluetooth controller between different devices just by moving the dongle, because it remembers and connects that way.
Right.
It works with Xbox Series and 1 controllers, PS3, 4, 5 controllers, Switch Pro, Joy-Cons, Wii U Pro, Wii Remote, literally any 8BitDo controller they've ever made.
Yeah.
It'll also sync with Nintendo Switch Online Classic controllers, since they register as Switch controllers.
Not any 8BitDo controller. Just any 8BitDo Bluetooth controller.
Any Bluetooth 8BitDo controller. Yeah. Any reasonable choice for that category.
Yeah.
And it just kind of lets you play anything anywhere, which is great. It is the very definition of universal. I have 2 or 3 of the first generation ones and a couple of the second generation ones, and I still use them frequently. They're great. Sometimes I'll forget that the controller that I have them paired with isn't 2.4 gigahertz. I just have them on that dongle.
Right.
So they're great, especially if you're like me and you just really fucking hate fussing with Bluetooth. It's very nice.
I feel like you have more Bluetooth problems than I do, though.
I do have Bluetooth problems. One, Bluetooth just sucks. It's just a pain in the dick. I don't like it. I got.
I have a lot less problems with Bluetooth now these days. Like 15 years ago, I would have 100% agreed with you that it was a terrible technology and we needed to get rid of it. These days, I almost never have a Bluetooth issue. Once something's synced, it's just synced forever for me.
I've been especially mad at Bluetooth lately because I was doing all those Linux installations, and I have my new 8BitDo keyboard and mouse connected via Bluetooth to my laptop to save on USB ports. Sure. And I would boot into my Linux live CD and go, oh yeah, this is all Bluetooth. It doesn't work. I have to pull the dongles out and then plug the shit in. And so I'm just particularly annoyed with it right now, I think.
Right now I have at my office, I've got a Logitech keyboard and mouse that are both Bluetooth, and I have them synced to both my personal laptop, my work laptop, and my phone. And I just have a hotkey set up so I can just change it and it'll switch which device it's connected to.
My wife does that with her keyboard and her mouse because they have that option, but most controllers don't have profiling options like that.
Yeah, it's a shame. They need that.
Sucks. They really do.
Yeah.
What's your pick for what is this category? I've fucking forgotten already. Universal. Universal.
This is where I chose the 8BitDo Ultimate.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about it earlier, and I still agree with all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. My honorable mention is a classic controller to USB adapter. I have a Mayflash brand one, but RAFnet has one for like $26. Because the Mayflash one that I have has gotten tough to find. But for people that don't know what a classic controller connector is, it is what the Wii Classic and Classic Pro controllers used.
Yeah. It's the Wii remote.
Right, it's the Wii accessory adapter. Yeah. It is also what the NES and SNES Classics both used.
Yep.
So if you have this RAFnet adapter, which is RAPH Net, they sell a bunch of like specific kind of boutique controller adapters. They're like a small company. This means that you can take a bunch of stuff you already have lying around. So like if you've already got, a couple mini consoles lying around, you bought the NES and SNES Mini, you got some old Wii shit lying around, then you've got very functional controllers that can plug directly into your machine and use them for retro gaming now. And in the case of the NES and SNES Mini controllers, those controllers are correct in air quotes. Again, they are exactly what those controllers felt like back in the day.
That said, the Wii Classic controller hasn't been sold in 13 years.
It's been a minute, but you might have some. I've got several.
If you already have them,
Yeah. Also, for a moment, mini console accessories were kind of a thing.
Oh yeah.
And quite a few companies kind of jumped on that bandwagon. So having something that adapts from that connector for kind of more general use means that you can maybe get extra connectivity for not a lot of money. Like you can probably pick up some of these like knockoff brand classic controllers for pretty damn cheap.
Right.
So it's just I like it because it's universal. It adds functionality to stuff you might already have lying around with a $26 connector that lets you use really some of the best retro controllers out there, which were the mini console controllers. And I still maintain the Wii Classic controller, both the Pro and the regular, was just a really good controller. I used it a ton.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those connectors that like we forget about, but if you're listening to this show, there's a chance you got at least a couple accessories floating around your house that use that connector.
Oh yeah.
And instead of it sitting in a drawer for forever, you could be utilizing that for your retro gaming. And you should do that.
Yeah.
Did you have an honorable mention for
Universal? No, I'm retracting mine.
Oh.
I had plugged in a something as a placeholder, and I forgot to actually go back and correct it. So I'm just gonna leave that blank.
All right. Final category is wild card.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of talking to do, so I'm gonna let you go first because I also just cheated on this category. I just decided what I think it means and went with it. So you go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's the good thing about the wild card category is it means whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah,
so that one's fine. Unlike the other one where you just completely change the definition.
Yeah, well, I do what I
want. So yeah, my pick was the Samba maracas.
Oh yeah,
which are still just so dumb, and I love them. I think what I'm learning is I love dumb controllers. I really love dumb, stupid controllers. I almost put the Duke re-release anniversary controller on here.
I keep wanting to get one of those stupid ass things.
I got one and it's so dumb and I hate it. And the only reason I didn't put it on here is because I hate the Duke. I hate that controller. They also did a
re-release of the Model S.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
man,
I saw it the other day. I don't remember if it was official in the same company or not.
Hyperkin
I did see
the Duke re-release.
Yeah, I did see it, and it
does it still have the
legit.
dumb screen on it?
That I don't remember. I was like scrolling controllers for this episode, and I was like, "Oh, look, a Model S," and then I just kept going. But it's out there. It's out.
Yeah,
there.
it is Hyperkin. It is licensed, and it looks like it has the screen on it. Is it actually a screen, or is that just a gem? I can't tell.
It could match perfectly with my keyboard and mouse. Do they got it in the see-through green?
Oh no, it's just a gem on the Model S one, but it is USB-C now.
Mm-hmm. What is this thing called? I'm looking this up right now.
It's Hyperkin. It's just I just went to Hyperkin's website and it's the first thing that comes up. They also did a re-release of the 360 controller now with the USB-C connector.
I need the translucent green to match my keyboard, though. That's what's important to me.
Gross. Gross.
Anyway, it's got to match.
Samba maracas is my thing because they're so dumb and I love them. And they are completely functionally useless for anything other than Samba de Amigo, but I don't care because they're maracas. And they actually, for anyone who hasn't used Samba maracas, they are real maracas as well. They have the beads in them.
Yes.
So that you can shake them and you can hear them as if they are maracas because they are literally maracas with a Dreamcast cord sticking out of the bottom. They're amazing. And I wish somebody would make USB maracas. I'm begging somebody to make USB maracas for me. I don't know what I'll use them for, but I'll find a purpose. I need them. I need them in my life.
I decided wild card meant arcade sticks.
Okay, sure.
And I decided this because the conversation came up the other day. If people don't know, I do own several fight sticks, or arcade sticks, whatever you want to call them. And each of them is customized in their own way. I did go kind of deep down that rabbit hole, hit my end game, have all the stuff that I want, and I just kind of don't talk about them much. So I thought this would be a good time to reiterate kind of my two big choices for arcade sticks, depending on what you want, because I see two different kinds of things. Because I had this discussion in Discord just the other day. One is if you just want an arcade stick that you're like, I want it to work, be functional, be really good, and not be insanely expensive, because you can spend $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800 on an arcade stick. People go bananas on these things, right? Yeah. The 8BitDo arcade stick is really, really damn good, and it sits right around like $99. And for the functionality you get in a high-quality fight stick, $99 is insane. It's Bluetooth. It's 2.4 gigahertz with a built-in dongle and USB-C wired with a rechargeable battery. This is a weird thing, but if you're like me and you have sweaty palms, it is a huge thing, which is that where your palm rests on the 8BitDo arcade stick, it has this kind of matte plastic. A lot of these arcade sticks are that shiny acrylic plastic all over the top. And if your hands get sweaty, that acrylic plastic gets real like sticky and slimy feeling.
Gross.
Which is really gross. This has only that acrylic plastic on the part where the buttons are.
I see.
It also lets you switch between switch and X input modes, and when you do that, it has little LED legends under the buttons, and it changes the legend on it.
Yes.
It's insane tech.
That is one of my favorite parts of it.
And it's just a really good, no fuss, all around stick for like comparatively very cheap. My complaints with it are that modifying it, despite the fact that on their website, they're like, it's easily moddable. One, it uses a weird kind of star bit. Two,
that's deeply recessed.
The screws are really recessed and it's hard to get down in there. Three, if you want to switch out the lever, the joystick, you have to solder it or buy a specialty harness. Those are really my complaints with it. Now I still open mine up because I modify all my sticks because I like a heavier spring. I like an oversized ball top for my big sweaty gorilla hands. So I'm a little particular in that regard. And I did swap out my entire lever with some Sanwa, I don't even remember. And I like an octagonal gate, not a square gate on my sticks. So I swap all those parts on mine. So if you're getting one specifically because you're like, I want to get into modding, it's kind of small, kind of tight fit inside of there, a little tough to get into and may require some soldering, which kind of sucks.
But it's really good for Pac-Man. That's what I use mine for.
It's really good for Pac-Man. If you're just like, I just want a stick that's going to work real good out of the box, have awesome features, and be affordable, it's awesome. Nothing beats it. I think the closest is probably Mayflash makes like their F500 range, but I do think depending on the console you're using that on, getting wireless to work can be a little goofy. I think they have some like Magic Boot wireless accessories that have to connect to a regular controller. That could be antiquated information, but at the time when I was purchasing that was the deal. It's just a really good no fuss stick. They also make an Xbox version that I think costs a little more because of the licensing, but it's just an awesome stick.
Yeah, I was using that for Pac-Man Champion Edition a few weeks ago.
Oh, it's good.
Man,
it's good for that stuff.
it's so nice.
My other stick, and this is my other, because of the 3 fight sticks I own, this is my other favorite one, is the Razer Panthera.
Which sounds like a Thundercat.
It does sound like a Thundercat. You're thinking of Panthro, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Coolest of the Thundercats. This was released for PS4, so it's getting hard to find. They came out with a few variants. There's a Street Fighter V version, a Dragon Ball Z version. There was a non-branded version that was just Razer. But this one's wonderful if you're like, I want to get a stick and I want to mod the shit out of it. Because it opens, you press a button and it releases and the whole top hinges open. Now, granted, if you're buying like fully custom-built aftermarket arcade sticks, this is a pretty normal feature, but those cost many, many hundreds of dollars. And you also have to know what you're doing to even get in the door on a lot of them. This thing works great on PS4 and PC. It's wired only. But inside of it, it includes a spot for you to put a different top, so you can have a bat top or a ball-style top, and a tool to swap the top out. I keep 2 different styles of gates in mind. So I have a square gate and an octagonal gate, and you just pop it open and swap them, which is what I was talking about in Discord. Someone was like, hey, I want a square gate in mind, and so I want to make sure that I can have a square gate and it can swap to a square gate. Or maybe I don't remember. They wanted to swap gates. But also inside of it, it's lined with these little plastic holes that are kind of sized so that you can use screws to screw into them. So the whole thing is honeycombed with these little sort of like makeshift screw holes. So if you're the kind of person that you want to rewire the whole guts of this thing and put in a Brook fighting board or a Universal Fight board so it works on different systems or whatever, this is a great platform for that, right? I've seen people set it up so that they've got a Brook board in there for when they want that, and then they kept the original PS4 hardware for when they want to just play on PS4 or PC, and it works great for that. And so if you're just like, hey, I kind of wanted to get into like the stick modding scene, but I don't want to be doing the like full custom thing because it gets crazy expensive and you kind of got to know what you're doing.
Right.
This is a really good stick for that. My only real complaints with it are that, one, it's quite big, but it's the large size and surface area that means you have a lot of room to work inside of it, which is nice. But also it is that acrylic shiny plastic on the top. So if you are sweaty-handed like I am, then you may find that less than desirable. But I
worry about how much of your controller purchasing is dependent
related?
Entirely on your sweat level.
Now, I've known some people with some sweaty hands. I'm not like dripping water off my controllers, but my hands, they get a little clammy. It's a little clammy.
I had one friend in high school who had notoriously sweaty hands.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first got my Dreamcast, he came over and was playing it. And after he left, my controller had already yellowed a little bit.
No, I'm not quite that bad. I can still use white controllers with regularity and no issues.
He could not. So, and he felt so bad about it that not only did he buy me another controller, which was very nice of him, but he started bringing his own controllers with him anytime he would come over. And I was like, man, now I feel bad. I did not mean to make you feel bad. But
yeah, it's so if you're looking to get a fight stick, these are kind of my 2 big broad recommendations. Because the Panthera is like my ultimate like guest stick. Like if someone comes over and they're like, hey, let's play something that we both need a fight stick, which has never happened. But one day it will, and I'll be prepared. And then I can be like, what do you want, a square gate or an octagonal gate, or do you want a heavier spring or a bat top, or we can swap it all out the way you want it. And it takes just a couple minutes because it pops open, and then I can use my 8-bit dough.
In your scenario, not only is your friend going to want to play on an arcade stick, but they are also going to have that detailed of a preference as to what they want.
One day you're going to come over and you're going to say, let's play Street Fighter, and I'm going to go, oh, Saturn, tell me exactly what you want in your fight stick, and I can.
And I will say a Saturn pad.
Oh, fuck off. Anyway, you have one final honorable mention that I made you save until the very end of the show because I want to talk about it too. So
because I'm going to say
this is our wild card category.
Yeah,
for people that forgot we were
and it is a wild card
like me.
So it is the Wii remote because it is kind of a wild card.
It is.
One, on its original hardware, it had a lot of varied use cases. It could be
did.
used as a motion pointer. It could be used as a baton. It could be used sideways as a gamepad. Or it could be used as motion controls for some reason. I don't think anybody did, though.
Red Steel only.
Yeah. Also, it has an expansion port, so you can plug all kinds of other shit in there.
Like your nunchuck, which is what they called it. It was called the nunchuck.
You had the nunchuck, you had the classic controller, and I think that's it. I think Nintendo gave up at that point.
Yeah, this is just kind of just going down the line of like them having really promising hardware they never do fucking anything with. Like the Joy-Cons. You remember when the Switch was announced and we were like, like, oh my God, they could come out with GameCube Joy-Cons and all sorts of different styles of Joy-Cons.
No, they didn't. They never did anything with it.
And then they did it, and then they almost teased us by releasing NES controllers that connect to the Joy-Con rails and function.
Yep.
When they could have released NES-style Joy-Cons, you fucking losers, Nintendo.
Right.
God. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got mad about the classic controller port.
Yeah, seriously. So, you could plug Guitar Hero guitar into the controller.
You could.
Into the expansion port.
Could do that.
And I think all the other Rock Band accessories just connected USB because they were lazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there were some mild uses of the expansion port. But anyway, my point is it's also still Bluetooth connected, so you can use it on a PC to this day as a gamepad. And it still has functionality even outside of Dolphin. You can use it. You can use the classic controller through your Wii remote through Bluetooth to your PC. So there is a lot of use cases with the Wii remote. It was a very varied controller.
Yeah.
And I feel like our dismission of motion controls in general has led to us forgetting how versatile it could have been and can still be on PCs to this day.
Oh yeah. It's great, and I want to say this for people that weren't around in 2009 when Nintendo was like, "What the fuck do we do now?" We did just waggle controls, and they go, "We'll go back to the NES." A sideways Wii remote with the D-pad and the 1 and 2 buttons, surprisingly comfortable.
Yeah. For games like Kirby and Donkey Kong, it worked just fine.
Metroid Other M used it too. I know we all love to remember that one. You know, it also did it.
It was a little weird in that game just because of the perspective of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, Wii Remote was that was a great controller.
Oh yeah,
still a great controller. I wonder if someone somewhere still uses it as their preferred pointing device for their Windows PC. Someone somewhere is doing that. They're like,
God, I hope not.
They're like, nah, fuck mice. I got my Wii Remote, and they got to do that thing where you're sitting too close to the screen with your Wii Remote, so you have to hold it up sideways by your face to kind of like you're trying to shoot someone with a gun at point blank range.
Oh, no. See, I didn't hold it that way when I was way too close to the screen. I would kind of hold it like it was a pencil where like I had my pointer finger on top of it trying to use it.
With it.
Yeah. It was just weird.
No, I would stick my elbow out and hold it up like by my face all sideways.
No, I would still have it by my face, but I would have like my pointer finger on top of it trying to use it that way. It's just very strange. There's no good way to hold it that close to the screen. No, I remember when the Opera browser first released on Wii, and like I had some friends over, and I was like, "Oh, we can finally browse the internet on the TV in a comfortable way." And like 5 minutes in, I was like, "I'm just gonna plug my computer back into the TV. It'll be fine. This will be fine."
Anyway,
so yeah, it's as far as game use, it's very versatile.
For final thoughts, I think what we've determined here is that 8BitDo is the
kind of running away with the market.
Yeah, premier. Like they're granted, there's a lot of stuff. GameSir is doing a lot of stuff that looks interesting. Turtle Beach has been doing some weird shit. There's been some weird controller
Turtle Beach,
stuff.
the sound card company?
Yeah.
Weird.
I saw a controller, I forget what it was called. But the right or the left stick and the D-pad were like a module that rotated so it would spin, and on the backside was a D-pad and a stick that was in the opposite position, so you could switch between symmetrical and non-symmetrical joystick placement.
I hate you even describing that to me.
And what they should have done is made it a module that lifts out and you rotate it and then put it back in. But instead, it's this whole like fucking spinny homunculus thing that has sticks and D-pads on both sides.
Oh my God, that sounds awful. Oh, I see. You were saying Turtle Beach. Apparently, they own PDP. who makes controllers. All right, that makes more sense. So I'm looking at Turtle Beach's controllers. They have a Switch controller.
Yeah.
That is Shadow the Hedgehog edition.
All right.
And it's a clear plastic controller, which, that happens. And it has a teeny tiny Shadow the Hedgehog figurine entrapped in its clear plastic.
Oh my God, I'm looking at this too. This is fucking incredible.
That's so dumb. That is the dumbest shit.
$64?
Oh my God, it looks so bad too. Look at those face buttons.
Oh, they have other characters. You can get it with Steve from Minecraft. You can get one with Optimus Prime. Here's one with a Pikmin in it.
Why?
This one's got Sonic.
Who's asking for this?
This one's got Tails.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I want this fucking dumbass Optimus Prime $65. Oh, the Optimus Prime one's only $36.
Oh, there you go.
It's on sale. You can get your Optimus Prime. God, this is fucking cool. See-through plastic and
it's so ugly. I hate it.
Oh my God, I do like this little Pikmin. The Pikmin one is cute.
I don't see the Pikmin one.
It's PDP Realms with a Z.
Oh, okay.
It's radical. PDP Realms Pikmin controller. I assume that's what you're looking at.
No, I was at the Turtle Beach website, not the PDP website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. Now I see them all on the PDP website.
There you go.
Right.
They got Xbox versions too. Hold on.
Oh.
I can get an Xbox Pikmin controller? Are you fucking serious right now? Okay, that one's Switch only though. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes
more sense.
Anyway, so you can get player 1 and 2 controllers, Shadow the Hedgehog and Optimus Prime. Some days it's like we're living in the best future.
Yeah, we're living in something.
Anyway, if you want to tell us your controller preferences, then we promise we'll listen to them if you go to our Patreon at patreon.com/retrowarriors, where you get all sorts of shit that I tell you about all the time. You don't need me to tell you again. The shit's been the same for like years. It's always the same shit. It's like 170 episodes of Talking Wizards.
Yeah.
Which I think we just had maybe our best episode of, that was entitled Wally B. Winker.
Like the chocolate company?
And the B stands for butt, is what we determined in the episode. Is there a chocolate company called Wally Winker?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or no, sorry, it's a brewing company.
Yeah, no, we learned that after the
Death
fact.
by Chocolate.
We learned that after the fact, that someone was like the beer, and they shared it in the Talking Wizards chat, which you can get access to at patreon.com/retrowarriors. And, you can get uncut versions of this show and stuff and things and other shit like that. It's very late at night. It's 1 a.m. And so you know what
Caffeine's
it is.
wearing off, huh?
You got the fucking... I had 2 cups. It's not helping. We want to thank the following patrons for giving us money, starting with EMD.
And Poncho Man Randy Savage.
Ivan Cervantes.
Jordan Ish.
Jonathan Meisner.
Our producer, Guy.
Oh, thanks, Guy. Matthew Garreau.
Matthew Webb.
Riker looks way better without a beard.
How would you lie like that?
There's wrongies on the internet, too, I guess.
And Mark Schwickendyhoffmeyer.
They all gave us money. At least Patreon says they gave us money. And the numbers in my PayPal account went up, so I'm, that's all that money is anymore anyway.
All maths.
It's just digits on a computer, right? Just little numbers moving around. It's all these numbers
these days,
in your head.
yeah. That's
can't be
all
good
it
for
is.
you. I think it's just a fad. The internet is going to go away.
Any day now.
I need to go to sleep. So I'm going to do that. Anyway, this is our 4th and final Controllers episode. I don't know what else we could possibly say about controllers. What do you want from us? We've done so many of them.
You say that.
We've got to have, including uncut content, we got to have like 6 hours of us just discussing controllers. It's got to exist out there.
And also, anytime anyone ever mentions controllers in our Discord, we immediately go into a long conversation about it again.
I guarantee you, is a month after this comes out, someone's going to be like, Controllers 5 win?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, somebody in the chat not that long ago said Controllers 3 win because they had forgotten we'd even done that one.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.